Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned. Albino ranks every Sly Cooper game from worst to best. Of the PS2 mascots alongside Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter, Sly sometimes gets the short end of the cane in regard to his popularity, but people who have played his games know that he definitely deserves to stand among them, or at least sneak up behind them. We've got Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, Sly 2 Band of Thieves, Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves, and Sly Cooper Thieves in Time to rank out here, so starting from worst and working our way to best. Number worst, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. Let me start off by saying none of these games are bad. The worst Sly Cooper game is still a solidly good game, make no mistake about it. It's just sort of not really even a Sly Cooper game. Like, stealth doesn't really exist yet. You pretty much just run up to enemies head on and whack them once and they're dead, while you go through a series of distinct levels and mini-games like a more traditional platformer. And that's still fun, it's just very obvious that it's the first game in the series, and it borrows much more heavily from other franchises because it hasn't really established its own identity yet. In later games, you really see the stealth and gameplay mechanics fleshed out with a bunch of original ideas that this game isn't working with. It has some great moments, though. Like, I'll always remember the Ms. Ruby rhythm boss fight, although I miss playing that on PS2 when the button presses were actually on beat and the remaster hadn't ruined it yet. I was less a fan of some of the mini-game levels, like you crabs can keep your treasure chests and I'm never eating gumbo again, plus I vastly prefer the later game's health system rather than the Lucky Charm Aku Aku mask situation Sly 1 is up to. It's also worth mentioning that of all the abilities you unlock by collecting clue bottles and opening safes, 95% of them are straight up useless. I'll take my electric roll and the ability to slow down time for fun action shots, but nothing else is worth the trouble. The levels where Carmelita chases you the whole time are some of the best gameplay in the entire franchise, though. I really enjoyed those. But this game doesn't have rocket boots or a paraglider, and that's an L. Number 3, Sly 4, Thieves in Time. It's no secret this game is the black sheep of the family, made by a different developer using a different art style and having a field day with warping established characters' personalities and making a mess of the lore. Sanzaru handled this game's story like a cat that got into a bag of food, just tearing holes in it and spilling the contents everywhere. What they did with Penelope becoming a villain for incredibly uncharacteristic reasons is the single biggest crime a new developer has ever committed to inherited source material, and everyone's just different in unfamiliar ways. Carmelita feels betrayed by Sly when she finds out he's faking his amnesia, which is fine, but then she handles it by going and flirting with all his ancestors in different time periods, even when he can't see her do it, so it isn't just to make him jealous, and it's weird. Murray has a random super forced crisis of usefulness when Sly's first ancestor Bob is introduced. Bentley's literally like, "Hey, we're gonna need Bob to climb up this ice wall since Murray tried and can't do it." And Murray's like, "Oh, I guess the team doesn't need me anymore." Like, the hell is that bullshit? Also, I don't like how Bentley's tongue is always hanging out in this game for no reason. It's just gross. The rest of the story is serviceable, though. Going to different time periods and rescuing Sly's ancestors is a cool and natural place for the series to go, and getting to play as them is an obvious highlight. The hacking minigames are more fun. The general gameplay is on par with Sly 2 and 3, with the addition of some pointless stuff, like square triangle combo attacks that never land because the first hit always knocks enemies back too far. I'll also say I think Thieves in Time has the best boss fights in the franchise. They're super well designed and good to play, except the second part of Penelope's fight. That shit sucks. It's hard to shake the feeling that you're playing some kind of bootlegged Sly Cooper game that exists in the bad universe, but there are enough good and or decent things about it, and the fact that it sticks to the established open-world mission-oriented stealth formula elevates it above the first game. Number 2, Sly 2 Band of Thieves. Sly 2 is a great evolution to the franchise, changes and refines almost all the core mechanics into something a lot more unique with variety and depth. Instead of separate levels, we go into a series of compact open worlds with missions to undertake, bottles to collect, and enemies to pickpocket. It makes flashlight guards an actual threat, so Sly doesn't feel like the strongest creature in the world. Collecting coins actually matters now and can be used to buy meaningful upgrades. Oh, and you get to play as Bentley and Murray, which is a necessary step to take, but they're not as mobile or flexible as Sly, so getting around with them feels lacking. You're basically just looking for trampolines to bounce on when Sly has a lot more options. This is the first game to really define the essence of what a Sly Cooper game is, and it does a great job, with more memorable characters and more varied missions, for better or worse. Dear stealth games or any other kind of game, nobody likes recon missions. I don't even think a real-life photographer wants to go to a place and take pictures of random BS there just so your operation lead can go, "Aha! Yes, that's interesting. Perhaps this will factor into our subsequent heist plan." Just skip that part. We lose out on nothing if you do. One weakness Sly 2 has more than Sly 3 is that a decent amount of the maps are just bad and unfun to traverse. The second Rajan area, but mostly both Contessa levels, are an absolute slog, which is fitting because she's a disgusting Black Widow monster, so nothing she's associated with should be enjoyable. Neela works well as a pretend friend turned antagonist right up until she merges with Clockwork and starts calling herself Clockla, like that isn't the lamest thing anyone's ever heard. Still a terrific game, though. It only just falls short of Number 1, Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves. This game is why Uncharted 2 is just called Among Thieves. Sly 3 takes the Sly 2 blueprint, subtracts clue bottles entirely, which I don't actually miss when I'm playing through it, and adds some low-key tweaks that make a big difference. For example, rocket boots. That is the only necessary example. Sly 2 had Stealth Slide, which is basically the same thing, but Stealth Slide had a lower average top speed and was greatly affected by upward slopes. With Rocket Boots, you just zoom wherever you want to go at a very satisfying clip. It's unlocked in the second area, which is a godsend, and it just makes traversal and enemy interaction so smooth. Slide right up to an enemy's ass and pickpocket it, or perform a takedown right out of the zoom with no lag. It feels so good. Another big QOL improvement is no longer needing to sell items you pickpocket back at the hideout. You just get the gold from it immediately, and it's such a lifted burden. Sly 3 expands the merry band of thieves with a host of new characters which I have mixed feelings about, because on one hand it felt more sentimental when it was just the three of them like it's always been, and on the other hand, none of the new members are fun to play at all. I kinda like Underwater Dimitri, actually, but Panda King running away from enemies while slowly stuffing himself with fireworks is a drag. The Guru taking people over and ramming them is kinda neat for the 30 whole seconds you spend doing that, and Penelope's RC car sections are fun, but her RC chopper is actually a stain on her own reputation. Like, how about you give that thing actual weapons instead of a hook? It is so much less convenient and effective to hook somebody's trousers and then fling them into a river than it is to simply unleash a barrage of explosive bombs on their head. And you call yourself a master engineer or whatever? I expect laser guns and homing missiles, not a fishing rod. You can also play as Carmelita a couple times, which is great. Super jumping around and shooting people is a good way to spend 2 minutes of your life. The only map I don't like is the Australian Outback. Everything else is at least not bad or annoying. And the pirate map to me is a highlight. Tell me why games that merely dabble in pirate ship combat do it so much better than games that specialize in it. Sly 3 and Kingdom Hearts 3 have one little area where you have some hot ship-on-ship action, and it's better than 12 hours in Sea of Thieves. Sly 3 also has the best villain in the franchise in the form of General Tsao. Every other villain kinda dabbles in being an asshole. General Tsao goes all in, and he's so hateable, it's terrific. There's just something amazing about a chicken named General Tsao, which is already a joke, trying to be super intimidating and intense while saying blatantly offensive things like, "She's a woman! She doesn't know up from down!" It just pleases me. Overall, Sly 3 is my favorite game in the series, and I think its improvements and general goings-on make it the best to play. Well, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, share, and subscribe and whatnot. Follow me on Twitter at Sunburned Albino. Jump and press the circle button to watch all my other videos, and I'll see you guys next time.